Imagine racing through traffic with your loved one in excruciating pain, only to discover a medical mystery beyond belief. This is the heart-wrenching story of Jacob and Emma, whose desperate fight to save their unborn daughter leads them to an unimaginable diagnosis. Join us as we uncover their gripping journey of hope and survival, and let us know where you're listening from today. They initially believed that baby Ava had a small tumor in her newborn abdomen. However, as they delved deeper into the situation, they uncovered something truly horrifying. Jacob drove through the traffic, his car swaying violently from side to side. In the back seat, his wife Emma screamed in agony from premature labor, certain that something was terribly wrong. They needed to reach Johns Hopkins Hospital as quickly as possible. As Jacob hurried them into the emergency room, he attempted to relay all the necessary information about Emma. At that moment, Emma could barely speak, overwhelmed by the intense pain of labor. The doctors immediately recognized the urgency of her condition and swiftly moved her to the operating room. Emma's blood pressure was dangerously high, and the baby was showing signs of distress. While washing his hands with colleagues, Dr. Thompson couldn't help but discuss the specifics of the C-section. Her obstetrician had noted in her file that the unborn child was not thriving, suspecting an underdeveloped liver and the presence of a severe tumor. Consequently, the baby was marked for immediate transfer to the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, NICU, at Seattle Children's Hospital. At just 33 weeks gestation, this situation warranted urgent attention regardless. The doctors feared they might not deliver the baby in time, working at an accelerated pace. Poor Emma remained in a fragile state. They had administered a spinal block, keeping her awake as she battled the anxiety of potentially losing her baby. Throughout the procedure, all she could hear was the relentless ticking of the clock on the wall and the sounds of surgery, heightening her anxiety with each passing moment until she felt increasingly unwell. Suddenly, there was a faint, weak cry from the baby. Desperately, Emma tried to get the doctor's attention, yearning to see her child and ensure her well-being. Despite her efforts, no one seemed to hear her, leaving her feeling as though she was screaming into the void. She could hear the medical team urgently moving the baby around the operating room, checking her condition. It took an agonizing 5 minutes before they attended to Emma. She saw nurses approaching, and then everything went black. Jacob was beside himself, sitting in the operating room, watching his wife go limp. He screamed for help, convinced she had died. The doctors hurriedly closed her wound amidst the sight of blood everywhere as she hemorrhaged. While the doctors worked frantically to stabilize her, the nurses tended to her, trying to revive her. Jacob's vision blurred, and he was at a loss for what to do until a nurse pointed him toward his little girl, urging him to focus on her. Overwhelmed with emotion, he saw his daughter for the first time, so small, pink, and seemingly healthy for her age. Mesmerized by her beauty, he momentarily forgot about his wife before feeling sick as the doctors continued their efforts to restart her heart. Jacob knelt beside his daughter, praying fervently for his wife's health and safety, hoping she could meet their daughter. This was not how things were supposed to unfold. Just as he was about to pray again, he heard the nurses become excited. Emma was regaining consciousness. It was a miracle. He immediately requested that his daughter be brought to show his wife, wanting to ensure she met her. When Emma first saw her baby in the incubator, connected to numerous tubes, she focused solely on the little angel she had carried for 8 months, grateful to be alive. However, the nurses quickly moved away, nonchalantly mentioning that Emma needed additional tests, filling both parents with dread. They knew Emma was premature, but how could that make her so ill? Emma's blood pressure began to soar, making her condition extremely dangerous, necessitating sedation. Left alone, Jacob faced the reality of his drugged-up wife who couldn't cope, along with the uncertainty surrounding their daughter's health. He was torn, unsure whether to check on his wife or his daughter first, but the hospital staff instructed him to remain in the waiting area, preventing him from wandering the hospital. This decision only heightened his anxiety, as he desperately wanted to know what was wrong with his daughter and needed his wife awake beside him during this perilous time. As Emma was slowly brought out of sedation, the atmosphere in the room was tense. They struggled to communicate without feeling overwhelmed by their vulnerability. When Dr. Martinez finally entered, they eagerly bombarded him with questions, desperate for answers. The doctor's grave expression indicated bad news. Standing together, he delivered the information with a chilling calmness. There's something wrong with her, but we're not quite sure what it is. She's refusing to eat, and her stomach is severely distended. We need to investigate further before it's too late. These words echoed in their minds, making it hard to think clearly. It was the worst-case scenario. If they couldn't determine what was wrong with their daughter, they might have to leave the hospital without her. The mere thought made Emma shiver and cry uncontrollably. However, she recalled the tumor on her liver and began explaining to the doctor that the radiologist had noted a small tumor there, which they believed could be the root cause of their daughter's issues. Dr. Martinez considered this possibility and agreed to investigate further before leaving the room. Confused, Jacob asked the nurse why the baby hadn't been scanned earlier, leading them to believe she was in imminent danger. The nurse explained that they typically avoid exposing babies to unnecessary radiation. The doctors then allowed Jacob to stay with his daughter for all subsequent tests, as Emma remained bedbound. Jacob stayed by his daughter's side throughout each examination, starting with her abdomen. The scans revealed a mass in her abdomen, seemingly unattached and just present, which was deeply concerning. Naturally, Jacob's mind raced with dark thoughts. Could his daughter have been born with cancer? How was this possible? Emma had been exceptionally healthy during her pregnancy, avoiding coffee, alcohol, and maintaining a strict regimen of healthy eating, vitamins, and rest. Was this some cruel irony? When Jacob inquired about cancer, the doctors dismissed his concerns, stating there was no reason to worry just yet since they didn't know what it was. They needed further testing and had tried to avoid using contrast dye, but now it seemed necessary before any surgery could take place. They prepared and began the invasive test, slowly injecting dye into her abdomen to get a clearer view, as her small size made accurate scanning difficult. Jacob watched the screen, unable to comprehend the moving shadows, until the doctor abruptly stopped the test and left the room, leaving Jacob startled and anxious about what had been discovered. As he pondered the situation, the prognosis seemed increasingly dire. He was nervous and scared, but nothing could have prepared him for the revelation the doctors were about to share. When they returned, they appeared surprised and slightly confused, but it made sense as they began to explain the rare condition they were dealing with. Your daughter is experiencing something we've never seen before. It's extremely rare, Dr. Martinez explained. It appears that she has a fetus within her abdomen. This can happen in cases where one twin absorbs the other. While horrifying, there's a solution. We need to carefully remove the fetus before it causes further harm. Jacob couldn't believe what he was hearing, feeling as though he was living in a science fiction nightmare. The doctors assured him that they could extract the fetus with minimal impact on his daughter, who was only 2 inches in size at this stage. The surgery was successful, and the unwanted tissue was meticulously removed. This meant that his daughter could now eat properly and lead a worry-free life. Jacob and Emma were immensely grateful for the excellent medical care that saved their daughter, though they mourned what could have been. The dream of having twins had turned into a nightmare, but they trusted that everything happened for a reason. Their daughter became part of the record for the rarest medical conditions, truly one of a kind. Thanks to the outstanding medical intervention, she would grow up to live a normal life. What an unbelievable story. Can you imagine something like this happening to you and your child? How would you react? What are your thoughts on how the doctors handled the situation? Share your opinions in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.